Wiz Kid is back in the X-Men spotlight after having spent years in Marvel obscurity. He's been busy in the pages of S.W.o.r.D. as the team's head technopath and has even been hinted at having some villainous allegiances as of late. I've always liked Wiz Kid, dorky superhero name that it is. He's confident and cocky, which are two of my favorite characteristics in a character, and I'm glad that he hasn't lost any of that over the years. His real name is Takeshi Matsuya, so most people default into calling him Taki, and maybe it was my own love of playing a character by that same name in the Soul Calibur video game series that really cemented my enjoyment of him. Wiz Kid himself actually always reminded me of the VR Kid from the Burger King Club mascots. Not necessarily in like the way he looks, but just in vibe, because the two of them are really decked out in what was like, at the time, nouveau gizmos and gadgets of the 90s, which might explain why Wiz Kid's popularity was fleeting at best. When S.W.o.R.D. was first announced as a new ongoing title, I wasn't super excited about it. Abigail Brand is S.W.o.R.D.'s head honcho, and she's never really done it for me, particularly not after having so unabashedly stolen the Polaris and Viper signature hairstyle. Abby doesn't work the green nearly as well as either of those other two divas do, but hair thievery aside, I just find her to be like a one-note intergalactic Nick Fury trope, so an entire series starring her was just not something that I was looking forward to. Thankfully, my worries were proven wrong though, as in the very first issue, although Abigail is still at the forefront of the series, it was clear that she's got a very compelling supporting cast of B-listers behind her, and Wiz Kid is a particular highlight of the book. Wiz Kid was first introduced during the Inferno storyline as a student at the St. Simon's boarding school. X-Factor shipped off S.w.o.r.d. and Leech there so that they could get a proper education, and as their classmate, Wiz Kid took a keen interest in them for looking differently since he himself was also different, him being in a wheelchair. He's portrayed as being kind of sulky and arrogant, but also highly intelligent and super interested in technology. He's like a unique rebel, and he advocates for Leech and S.w.o.r.d. to not learn how to read, since he suffers from dyslexia and has trouble reading himself. He's kind of a dick to Leech after he realizes that Leech has like his power dampening field around him, but that doesn't stop Wiz Kid from trying to protect him and S.w.o.r.d. after he sees a demon outside their window. Taki's power of technopathy first manifests when he's almost kidnapped by the Inferno demons, and he creates like a ray gun on the arms of his chair for self-defense. He rushes to help S.w.o.r.d. and Leech and transforms his wheelchair for the first time by generating the ray gun and tries to fend the demons off, but it's to no avail, and he is swiftly defeated, with S.w.o.r.d. and Leech being kidnapped and brought to Nastir's Inferno lair. When Taki's teachers don't believe him about what happened with the demons, he decides to go out on his own and find help himself in order to rescue the kidnapped boys. He transforms his wheelchair into a helicopter and goes out to collect Skids, Boom Boom, and Richter from an uppity boarding school that X-Factor shipped them off to as well. Then they bust Rusty out of his voluntary prison sentence, and together they all form the new super team, the X-Terminators. As they're wondering how they're going to save S.w.o.r.d. and Leech, Wiz Kid goes off by himself to investigate a demon sighting, but it ended up being a well-laid trap for him, and he gets himself captured. The demons bring him to Nastir, confident that he'll be able to help speed up the Inferno spell casting with the use of his computer technology. Taki refuses to help, but when Nastir threatens to kill S.w.o.r.d. and Leech, he eventually succumbs and feels he doesn't have much of a choice. He tries to stall the demons by making ridiculous requests like demanding organic soybeans on rice for a snack and cribs for all the kidnapped children, but he's eventually forced into working, and he does end up creating a supercomputer that's capable of checking Nastir's spells for error and processing them quicker. The other exterminators come to the rescue, but they are quickly defeated, and Taki has to work with Nastir to input the final spell that will bring all of Limbo into New York. The demon horde invasion is picking up, but it doesn't last for long as Taki distracts the demons long enough for S.w.o.r.d. and Leech to pull the plug on the supercomputer, thus stopping Nastir's spell and closing the portal and freeing the exterminators. Nastir starts to merge with the computer, and Taki knows that if Nastir does merge with the supercomputer, that he'll be unstoppable. So he counters Nastir's merging with his own abilities to control technology, and the resulting feedback is just too much for the poor computer to handle, and it ultimately explodes, shattering all of Nastir's spells and almost killing Taki in the process. And that is why Wiz Kid was one of the true heroes of Inferno. The Exterminators miniseries was very much a journey for Taki, as at the beginning of it, he was super cocky and a loner and full of himself, but by the last panel, he's basically sacrificing himself for his community, and he finally sees himself in a space where he belongs. He forms a great friendship with S.W.o.r.d and Leech, and after the Inferno debacle is doused, he heads back to the boarding school with them, ready to dive into his academics and learn more about how to use his powers. It wouldn't be long before trouble found him again, though. The Alliance of Evil was on the hunt for mutant energy to absorb, and they attacked Taki's school with their leader Harness, hoping to resurrect Proteus. Wiz Kid, Leech, and S.W.o.r.d tried their best to fend the villains off, bless their little hearts, but Tower, Frenzy, and Stinger easily overpowered them, and the kids ended up in the hospital. There, they were visited by their old friend Boom Boom, who introduced them to X-Force, and Wiz Kid helped put them all on the trail to capturing Harness and the Alliance of Evil. His next, and pretty much his last big exploit before disappearing for several years, happened after he was out of the hospital and back at school with S.W.o.r.d and Leech. He developed a crush on his teacher, Mrs. Huntington, and he was super jealous that she was going on dates with some guy named Patrick. Turns out it wasn't just jealousy talking though, as Wiz Kid discovered that Patrick was really just a mole for an anti-mutant hate group, and that he was only dating Mrs. Huntington in order to steal her student files so that he could hunt down and kill all the mutants at the school. Wiz Kid, Leech, and S.W.o.r.d managed to expose the group and he got them arrested, and though it broke poor Miss Huntington's heart, Taki told her that if she's willing to wait a few years, he'd be more than happy to help her mend it. And then that was it for several years until M-Day, when Taki appeared on the S.H.I.E.L.D. screen database as one of the mutants who was depowered during the Scarlet Witch's mass mutant decimation. His non-mutant status was quickly retconned away though, and he was stated to just have infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. using his powers to pose as a depowered mutant, as he next showed up at the Avengers Academy compound, where he was recruited as a student to study and learn more about his abilities, his mutant gene fully intact. He was more of a background player in this series though, and was only ever seen training with the other kids instead of having like an actual storyline. When Cyclops and the X-Men paid the Academy a visit and ultimately started fighting with everyone, Wiz Kid was torn as to what to do and which side to fight for. Part of him wanted to fight with Cyclops because he was a mutant too, but since he was actually enrolled at the Avengers Academy, he also felt a need to protect the integrity of this institution. Luckily for him, Emma stopped everyone in their tracks before Taki ever had to make a decision. His indecision here kind of acted as a precursor for when the Avengers and the X-Men did actually go to war with each other though, and he called a meeting at Avengers Academy between him and the other mutant students like X-23 and Ricochet to discuss where their loyalties should lie. The X-Academy kids were brought to Avengers Academy as a means to supposedly protect them from the ongoing conflict between the Avengers and the X-Men, and even though they were called guests of the Institute, Captain America told the Avengers students to stop them if any of them tried to leave by using force if necessary. Wiz Kid and the other mutant Avenger students felt a sense of disharmony in being the technical jailers of the mutant kids, and were trying to decide if they should help stage a revolt and free them, or just keep the status quo and do nothing. When the X-Kids wanted to leave and some of the Avengers kids tried to stop them, Wiz Kid and Ricochet ultimately sided with their mutant brothers and sisters, and a mini X-Men vs. Avengers battle broke out between the mutants and the non-mutants. Ultimately, the X-Kids left the compound, partially with the blessing of Tigra and the other instructors, but Wiz Kid and the other students who were already enrolled at Avengers Academy stayed behind. Then that brings us to today, in the current era of Krakoa, where Wiz Kid is employed as the S.W.o.R.D. station's technologist, reporting directly to the station commander, Abigail Brand herself. There, he helped integrate the Krakoan plant tech with the station's original systems to give it that little boost in power that everything from Krakoa seems to give. He's also one of S.W.o.R.D's designated 6 mutant circuit breakers that participates in the team's multiversal space missions. Taki's specific role is as the Control, which means he's responsible for adjusting and unifying everyone's powers to work together so they can be used in conjunction as a synergy and not short circuit. In their first mission, the Six procured Mysterium from the equally mysterious White Hot Room, which is of course the place of residence of the Phoenix Force when it's not imbuing people with its power. Wiz Kid has also taken up arms in defending the S.W.o.r.D. space station, like he did against the Dark God Nulls invading symbiote dragons by activating security measures on the hull of S.W.o.r.D., which he no doubt helped in creating as well. After Null took control of Kid Cable and the symbiote invasion was brought to Krakoa, Wiz Kid hijacked Metallo's think tank, which was acting as like a protector for the Five, and he technomorphed it into a Transformer-style robo-fighter. There, he defended the Resurrection Hatchery by using a combination of brute force, as well as a unique mix of sonic transduction that he harnessed through Metallo's built-in stereo system, which allowed the Five to have their own private dance party while he slaughtered symbiotes. Wiz Kid also joined up with Cable's revamped Exterminators team after he was tasked with shutting down and bringing in a self-automated weapon from Breakworld. The weapon was a giant Mark II sentry that the Exterminators had to shut down before it killed them, and then, working together with Core of the Burning Heart, Wiz Kid managed to use his powers to turn it into the kind of weapon they needed, which was namely a big giant space gun for Abigail Brand's big giant space bullet. Wiz Kid's latest exploit showed him potentially betraying his S.W.o.r.D. teammates after it was revealed that he was a secret agent working for Henry Gyrick and Orcus. He knocked out Cable by manipulating the techno-organic technology within him, and then ordered a complete evacuation of the space station before initiating a self-destruct sequence and blowing S.W.o.R.D. out of orbit towards Earth. He claimed he was double-crossing Krakoa because he didn't vibe with Xavier and Magneto's decision to partner with Apocalypse, but in fact it turns out he wasn't doing that at all, as it was revealed that he's actually a secret triple agent, and he's there working covertly for Abigail Brand as her undercover spy. In terms of his mutant abilities, Wiz Kid is a very powerful technopath who has been shown to be able to control any form of technology, be it mechanical or not. Unlike other technopaths like Madison Jeffries, who can chat with nuts and bolts, and Forge, whose power is more passive and intuitive, Wiz Kid's control over technology is very active, and it's been given very loose liberties in terms of what technology means for him. Apart from the usual machinery like computers that is generally associated with being a technopath, Wiz Kid has been seen manipulating all sorts of things like fixing and aesthetically upgrading a broken vending machine and manipulating plastic Legos into flying Star Wars TIE fighters. Outside of metals and plastics, he's also been shown to be able to manipulate biotechnology, such as the plant life from Krakoa. His role as the controller of S.W.o.R.D's 6 mutant power circuit also has him essentially controlling like other mutants' powers and making sure that everything is powering the figurative machine in tandem. So his power set has certainly increased and gotten wider over the years, kind of in the way that like Doug Ramsey's linguistic abilities render him to be able to read people's body language and micro movements in addition to actual spoken language, and similar to how iBoy's eyes have like evolved to let him tap into things like eye blasts and see when people are lying and stuff. Definitely the most prominent tool in Wiz Kid's arsenal is his wheelchair. He has technomorphed it into a wide variety of different forms to help get him and his friends out of lots of sticky situations. Usually he turns it into some sort of bigger vehicle like a helicopter or a 6-person aircraft. He can adjust it to whatever his needs are, like if he needs to go fast, it can become a rocket, or if he needs to move quietly, it can be a silent hovercraft. It can be highly effective in offensive battle, like when he transformed it into a giant arm or a tank to punch his way through a building, or where he generated giant guns on it to shoot off his enemies. He has also transformed his wheelchair into more obscure, non-threatening, specific things, like an ATM machine to get some cash and a giant pair of legs to climb some stairs. Wiz Kid's power is super versatile, and with the new liberties the creative team has taken in defining what technology means for him, he's really only limited by his own imagination now in terms of what he'll be able to manipulate next. I'm very excited to see what's next for Wiz Kid, and I can't wait to see where this new story of his triple secret agency takes him. On the surface, it looks like he betrayed Krakoa for Orcus, but he's actually working for Abigail Brand, so I'm curious to see if he'll have an instrumental part in taking down Nimrod. Nimrod is poised to be the big bad of the current Inferno series, and since he's basically made of technology from the future, it'll be interesting to see if Taki can get a hold on that and harness that power, maybe even making it change over for good instead of evil. They've really been building up on how much Wiz Kid's powers have grown over the years, so if he's capable of taking down Nimrod himself, then dare I say, we may just have found ourselves another Omega level mutant to contend with. Even though I like the twist of him being a triple secret agent, part of me actually wishes that Taki really did defect to the dark side. I was shocked when he was hinted at being a betrayer, as I always thought it was going to be Peeper, but Taki being the traitor really gave him a different dimension to explore in his personality, and I liked his rationale when he was explaining to Gyrick that he was mad at Xavier and Magneto for jumping in bed with Mr. Survival of the Fittest Apocalypse. Whatever happens with Taki, I just hope that we at least get to see a reunion between him and Leech and Artie before it all ends. They were his boys back at St. Simon's School, and now that Wiz Kid is looking all cool with attitude to spare, I think it would be fun to bring back an updated Leech and Artie as well to give that clique a little 2021 style. So that's it for Wiz Kid. I hope you enjoyed this video about his history and powers, and please let me know what you think about him. If you like this video, feel free to browse my channel for more like it. I create rankings and reviews of all things X-Men, so surely you'll find something you enjoy. You can also follow me on social media for daily postings of panels that I enjoy with sometimes funny, sometimes witty captions that might make you smirk, or just go on and check out my website, greatxmentations.com. Thanks again for stopping by and sharing your time with me today, and be sure to come back again soon for more great X-Mentations.